I'm a scat man. Yeah, we got it.
I drove a race car.
Yeah.
I did. We built.
What is it? It's like a Ferrari?
No, I think you know it's not a Ferrari. It's a 2003
Lambo?
Volkswagen Jetta that I bought from a hillbilly in Indiana, an honest-to-God hillbilly, for $300. No bill of sale or title. He was just like, there you go.
There's
Do you
your
need
car.
help pushing it on the trailer? And my brother-in-law was like, let's get out of here before they kill us for your wife's truck. All right, that's not good. So we built this thing for a race. It's called a chump car race. The car can't cost more than $500, but then you spend like $2,000 in safety equipment. And the more absurd, the better. It's like a circus environment. And on the first lap, the first time we attempted this, car failed, just fell apart. We fixed it 2 years later. We actually ran it this year. I am so proud. I have always raced in my own car. That's very stressful. When you're racing in a heinous piece of garbage against a bunch of other heinous pieces of garbage, wheel to wheel, passing, like full-on real deal racing where you can hit each other, and you don't care about that car, and you know no one else does either, that is the most fun in the world. I loved it. Despite in lap 3, I disintegrated the clutch, and we spent the rest of day 1 replacing a clutch in a field in Michigan in 50-degree windy weather. It was horrible. True, if I described it to you in detail, the entire thing sounds really horrible, but I absolutely loved it. I'm going again next year, and it's going to cost us thousands more to run this piece of garbage again.
I've been with you on this multi-year journey.
Yeah.
And every year you tell me about all the work you have to do and then how terrible it is and how your car breaks immediately when you do it after driving several hours and working for months on this. And it really sounds like the worst thing to do ever.
You know, I always have a big smile on my face.
You truly, and every time you're telling me, I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. And then this year you had a problem finding another person. You were like, hey, you want to come do the Lemons race with me? I was like, no, I definitely don't. I've been here for years. My mother was like, Kurt's doing that again? She was like, that sounds horrible. My mother remembers all your stories.
I agree that on the surface, this sounds terrible. It is ridiculous fun. I'm doing it again.
Your brother-in-law, Mike, was sleeping in a tent at the racetrack.
Well, I mean, that's his own idiocy. I stayed at a Holiday Inn.
Oh, well, all right.
It's very pleasant. So one of the questions we got, we're going to do listener Q&A as usual, but we're doing a deep dive into conversion rate data. Ryan Stin had asked, when looking at mobile versus desktop conversion rate, what is the expected drop-off on mobile? We have a 5.36% desktop rate and a 2.47% mobile rate. Is this indicative of a problem or fairly standard? And the answer we traditionally give is, hey, we generally expect mobile conversion rate to be half of desktop conversion rate. So if you've got that, you're doing it right. And his was about that. It was 5 1/3 versus 2 1/2. So a little less than half, but nothing to be concerned about. You went hog wild in the data. You took a deep dive. Tell me about the data you gathered on this.
Well, it's funny because a couple months ago, just on my own time, I pulled a bunch of data from our clients and was like,
it looks like you just grabbed the top 5 biggest.
I grabbed the top 5 biggest in terms of revenue, and they all happen to have like different market segments and different price points. So it was a good look. But yeah. I'd done this myself to be like, hey, are there problems I could solve? Like I knew about the mobile problem. It sucks that the number one type of traffic all these stores have is mobile traffic. It blows desktop out of the water on every single one. And the number one type of traffic is also the worst converting type of traffic. So it's like, if you could solve that problem, if you could get if you can get mobile conversion rates at parity with desktop conversion rates somehow, it literally would mean millions of dollars for every single one of these stores on this list.
Multiple millions. Yeah.
Multiple millions.
Overnight,
Immediately. So it's like, is there anything I could glean from this data? And so then he asked that question this week, and I was like, well, now I really got to break it down. So I did. So I made a spreadsheet, and Kurt has it too. I don't know how deep we want to get into the names or
can't
the
name
secrecy.
names.
Can't name names. But so yeah, it's generally below half. So I averaged it all out, and average probably isn't the right thing. I should probably weight it, blah, blah, blah. This is supposed to be illustrative, not statistically perfectly correct. So across these 5 big time stores that are like our 5 biggest clients, the desktop conversion rate is 5.5%, and the mobile conversion rate is 2%. And then tablets are right in the middle at 3.6%. So it's more than a half drop, and it obviously wildly swings. Like we got someone whose desktop rate is 13.5 and their mobile is 4.6, down to someone whose desktop rate is 2.4 and their mobile rate is 0.6. So it's the other main thing that really showed up to me here is the drop off. I calculated the drop off from add to cart down to checkout down to converted. And our rule of thumb whenever we're talking with our clients is you always say you want it to go down by half.
Yeah, so if add to cart was 10% and you told me your reach checkout rate was 5%, that would not be cause for concern because then your conversion rate would be 2.5%, and that'd be very good.
Yeah. Well, it depends.
Yeah.
Depends on what you're selling. But looking at these numbers, generally we're seeing it's actually goes down by a third. So it's not a...
Well,
so
these are stores we set up.
Super optimized. So we did a great job. Clearly, that must be it.
Give myself a pat on the back.
So yeah, really you should be looking for a 1/3 drop. So it should go from 9 to 6 to 3 instead of 9 to 4.5.
Okay.
And I guess my other main takeaways that I am seeing here is stores that sell expensive things have a much harder time on mobile. Like there's 2 on here where their average order value has to be over $100 for every order. And their mobile conversion rates just get annihilated. Because I don't know, people are too scared. People don't trust their phones enough. They're too scared to buy something very expensive on their phones, I guess is my takeaway on that. I don't know.
If I pull out, all right, if I'm doing work on my computer, I'm doing work. If you see me doing work on my phone, it looks like I'm screwing around. There is, I think, this mental idea that as soon as this is serious, I better get my desktop. And we have seen over and over that $50 is like this pricing Rubicon that once crossed, it gets harder to sell, conversion rates go down. And to your point about the average order value having an effect here, the store that's got the super high conversion rate also has the lowest average order value, and the store with the lowest conversion rate has the highest average order value. So it could just be like this mental block that, oh, if I'm going to spend a few $100s, well, I better do it right and bust out the laptop. Or it's just that like, well, I should wait, and it's less of an impulse purchase. Yeah. And they're picking them up on via emails down
They're
the
waiting
line.
till they're really hunkered down and like doing things. And then that's when they buy the more expensive things. But yeah, the biggest converting store with the highest rates, their average order value, I know their highest selling item is literally like $12. And so, and they also have the smallest drop rate between add to cart, reach checkout, and conversions. Is the drop is only on desktop, it's only 17% at each step, which is crazy great. But again, they're only selling $12 products. So it's easy for people, it's harder for people to talk themselves out of buying it.
What else? The lower drop rates, I think that's interesting. The effect on average order value is interesting. It's also in all of these, tablet sits right in the middle between mobile and desktop in terms of conversion rate.
I mean, so
isn't that interesting?
To me, it's not like it's easier to buy. I guess one of the things I was looking for is like, hey, what if this was a hypothesis I had? What if the add to cart rates are the same everywhere? And then maybe even the reach checkouts are the same everywhere, but then the conversion rate is where the mobile drop happens. And that would say to me, okay, it's people that they're scared about handing over their money, or they don't want to type in their credit card, or the checkout isn't optimized for mobile or something like that. But that's not what we're seeing. The add to cart rates on phone are much lower than they are on desktop. Checkout rates on phone are much lower than they are on desktop. You're just starting off with a smaller amount of people willing to buy on that device. And tablet is always in the middle. So part of me just thinks it's just literal screen size.
Yeah, well, it's harder to use the smaller device. But I think what you're finding is you can optimize that mobile experience all day long. What are you going to do you can't do anything to fix that person's prior crappy mobile experiences. They're not adding to cart on mobile.
Yeah.
It's the quality of traffic is not as good. The buyer intent is not as high because the moment I'm on my phone, maybe I'm sitting at a stoplight for all we know. Like, we don't know what the context is there as far as my attention goes. But I think people are just significantly less willing to go through making a purchase on their phone. And we've got dynamic checkout buttons and Apple Pay and Google Pay and PayPal, and it autofills the password. How many people actually have that set up, though?
I think a lot of people have Apple Pay set up.
Well, and that's where we could dive into...
Well, and as what you're saying with that, phone time is screw-around time. I broke out on 2 stores, I broke out the conversion rate by browser. And one store, which does millions of dollars, it's our biggest client in terms of total revenue. They're monsters. They probably do like $1 million a month. Their second highest browser that they see is mobile Instagram. People are coming to their site from their Instagram. And the problem with that is the conversion rates on mobile Safari and mobile Chrome are 2.5%. They're great.
So let's back up a little bit. In Shopify, you could pull a report in which it will break down conversion rate by mobile versus desktop versus tablet, and then further break it down by browser on those devices. And that's where things get really interesting. So you could break down conversion rate by specific browser. So I could see mobile versus desktop, but then diving deeper, mobile Safari versus Chrome mobile versus Instagram mobile. Tell me what you see here.
Well, so on this big gun store that is locked in, it's running turbo that we modified significantly. But I mean, it's great. We're proud of it. They're proud of it. They make millions of dollars. It is a big gun. Mobile Safari, 2.45%. Mobile Chrome, 2.49%. Instagram, 1.1%.
And they're driving, that's their second highest traffic source.
Their highest traffic source is mobile Safari. Their second highest traffic source, Instagram browser. The browser in the WebKit browser inside Instagram.
I know what this says to me. What does this say to you?
This says to me that people, I mean, they do a great job on Instagram. So people are looking at their Instagram photos and then clicking through to the store just to like check it out, but it's all drive-by traffic. And they're early in the funnel. They're top of the funnel. I mean, if you can, remarket to these people, they're going to buy down the line. But when they buy, the best case scenario I feel like is that these people look at you from Instagram, they don't buy, your Instagram conversion rate's terrible. But if you're able to tag them and remarket them, when the remarketing pushes them down the funnel farther, they're going to buy, but they're probably going to end up buying on desktop in a couple weeks.
So mobile Instagram, our conversion rate drops to its lowest at approximately 1%, versus if I just get someone on Chrome mobile or mobile Safari, it's 2.5%, more than double. So this speaks to the issue on mobile, that conversion rates are always lower on mobile, a third to a half, is quality of traffic. People are unwilling. Based on that add to cart rate, we think they're unwilling to even attempt the experience. And 2, you've just got a lot of drive-by traffic with lower buyer intent, because that's where a lot of your top-of-funnel ads live. So if you're seeing a lower conversion rate on mobile, that really is not the scary, scary nightmare that it may seem initially. And it speaks to, you need to have a funnel in place where you're increasing as many touch points as you can. So I want a pop-up to try and grab an email on welcome and exit. I need remarketing in place, and then ideally I've got email marketing automation behind all of that. So if I capture their attention on mobile and they don't buy, that is completely fine and expected. And then later I pick them up on desktop, where suddenly, on Chrome desktop, my conversion rate was 5% compared to that 1% on mobile Instagram. So this really is not so much the device; it's the mindset, and it's the quality of traffic, which I get. It's their mindset.
Yeah. So and just to go Instagram bad. Same thing with the Facebook browser. In-app browser on Facebook, it's 1.3%. So it's like, again, that social mobile traffic is the top of the funnel, and it doesn't buy. And what it ends up doing is, if you're only just looking at your top line mobile conversion rate, it's dragging it down. Your top line mobile conversion rate is not as bad as you think it is. It's not as good as desktop. Even in the best case scenario, it's not good as desktop, not even close, but it's not as bad as the top line number appears.
And tell me, do you remember off the top of your head in Shopify where people can go find this?
All right, so you go to analytics. It's on the right side. It's like second or third from the bottom, and it says traffic by device type, and it'll just have mobile, tablet, desktop, and it'll just show you the raw traffic numbers. You have to click on that. That'll take you into a bigger report, and then there's a little drop down, and then you could check off the things you want to see in that report. Now, the one problem with this is they don't give you the rates. The only rate they give you is conversion rate for those different devices. They don't give you add to cart rate or reach checkout rate. They just give you the raw numbers. And then for the purposes of this, I calculated the numbers myself.
Okay.
In a spreadsheet. But this thing but you could break it down. One of the things you could select in the drop down is device browser. Just check off device browser, and then there will just be a chart that has what kind of browser is it? Is it a mobile, a desktop, or a tablet? Then the name of the browser. Then you can get the conversion rate right there next to it. One more thing was that, so one of our other stores that is just a mobile monster, their mobile traffic is literally 10 times higher than their desktop traffic. And that hurts them because, like we said, mobile conversion rates are lower than desktop traffic. So if your mobile traffic is 10 times more than your desktop traffic, your conversion rate's going to look like shit. But they got the same problem in that their second highest browser is Facebook. Well, that's only 0.5%. Mobile Safari, it's 1.8. It's 3 times as much. Their mobile,
you're talking about conversion rate.
Their conversion rate, yeah, sorry. And also, they get pinned on Pinterest a ton. Their 4th biggest browser overall is Pinterest. And that converts at 0.04%. Ooh. Nobody bought off of Pinterest. So if their 4th highest...
0.04, brutal.
So if their 4th highest browser is something literally no one buys on, it kills their rates.
It's going to wildly skew the rate. Now, what's interesting is when you look at desktop and you start breaking out desktop by browser, on all of these sites, they have the same highest conversion rate on the same 2 browsers. Safari for desktop and Edge in Windows. And the theory here is the reason is it is an indicator of disposable income. If I'm on desktop Safari, I am almost certainly on a MacBook. And you didn't shell out for $2,000. MacBook if you're hurting for cash.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that was I remember seeing analytics where they got, this was years ago, before iPhones were as ubiquitous, where they were a much higher status symbol. And they could just map out that you could, they got free open data of like whether a phone on the network was an iPhone or an Android phone. And they could easily map out areas by income just by looking at the relative amounts of iPhones or Android phones in those areas. I mean, there was like a easily seen correlation.
Well, and we used to see on mobile, Safari always did significantly better.
Yeah.
Now it's not the case.
Now it's not the case. They're pretty much at they're at parity.
Yeah, if like they'll be 0.1% better on mobile Safari, but nothing extraordinary and dramatic like these desktop numbers. So what's the takeaway? What's the action item for people?
I don't know. I guess the action item is one. Even if you do the best you can on mobile and just really dial it in and do everything you can think of, it still will never be as good as desktop.
And
you need to be okay with that.
There's the customer's psychological barrier.
Yeah. And I guess don't worry and then also if you can dive into your mobile conversion numbers, take a look at how much your traffic is coming from Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, because those people just don't convert, and you may be tearing your hair out, but your mobile conversion may not be as bad as you think it is.
Yeah, it becomes much more revealing when you can see it by browser. Now, you could also use this to try and reveal if there's a weird outlier, and it could be that, there's a browser-specific bug.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are it's interesting to dive into these numbers.
And I guess the other thing I learned is that we've always been saying every step drops off by a half. We should change that to every step drops off by a third.
If it's optimized. All right. Moving on to our other listener questions.
Oh, and your conversion rate's going to be smaller if your stuff is more expensive.
Oh, yeah, we knew that.
Well, especially on phone.
Much easier to sell a $10 item than a $100 item.
Well, true.
What app do your best stores use for returns and exchanges on Shopify? Well, I set it up just last week. Bold Returns Manager. It's super cool. Person puts in their order ID and email address. Like you link it, request a return in your footer, and they go to a page that says order ID and email address. Put it in. It immediately comes back with, here's your order, here's your items. Check the ones you want to return, and then select the reason. You set up the reasons in the app. So it could be like wrong size, need an exchange, item damaged, wrong item shipped, or other, or didn't want it. And then for each of those reasons, you set who pays shipping. So if it's like damaged or wrong item sent, obviously the merchant pays the shipping. You can have it just immediately approve the return and send them a return label. You can have it ask to require, if they say it's damaged, you can have it require a photo, that kind of thing. I thought it was very cool, not difficult to set up at all. So Bold Returns Manager is your answer if you're trying to do returns, streamline your returns and exchange process in Shopify. Then we had Rachel Reed, a question near and dear to my heart. How to scale creative? I really struggle to keep content fresh and cohesive. Do you have any plan you implemented for scaling content for small teams that have to outsource that kind of thing? So I can tell you our success managing Facebook ads on Retainer for clients is largely dependent on the content, but also how fresh it is. So can the clients who go, hey, every month, here's a fresh set of content, go, those are the ones that are the most successful because you reduce ad fatigue and you're continuously trying new things and you develop a sense of this is the kind of thing that works right now. So I don't think it's crazy to have to create fresh content for ads in like even just fresh photos once a month. But if you're saying, look, how do I scale it and I'm struggling with it? I think number one, it's a mindset. It's a skill, a muscle that you develop with practice. And number two, rather than set out to, I'm going to make content, just as wherever you can, document the work you're already doing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is that it should just be ABC, always be creating. And you're just, you always have your phone on you. This podcast, we're recording it now. It's recorded on our phones. Everything on the internet now is just recorded on people's phones. You just use your phone throughout the day to create more content. Take photos with it, take videos with it, document the things you're doing, and that is content right there.
Yeah, when someone...
just document your day.
Yeah, document, don't create. And then once you've got... So that creates your initial piece of content. Then, all right, can you scale that via distribution or format? So for me, it's someone asks a question in the Facebook group. I will take that answer, and that will become I'll write that as a tweet. Then I'll put that into a social media app I like called Buffer. So that will go to 2 Facebook pages, LinkedIn, Twitter, and a Facebook group. So it gets one question and the answer turns into content posted in 5 places. Then it'll get stored in our podcast topics list. We'll discuss it here. It will be recorded on audio and video. Then that gets distributed to the podcast, which is syndicated, and gets posted to YouTube. And I post it in a Facebook group. All right, so now it's across several places. Then if there's what I should really be doing is using Highliner to pull some segments from the podcast, or just cut out 60-second highlights from each episode and then post those throughout the week. So now it's like a couple hours of activity turned into dozens of pieces of content. So you have to think at it at scale. Just this morning, I saw a new book came out. It's on Amazon. I haven't read it. It looked really cool. I almost bought it. It's called 10x Content. And it literally was like, if you're creating content, here's how to make more content. So I will put that in the show notes. I thought that was a good one. While I take that note, why don't you read the next one?
Well, I don't know the answer to it. It's Jacob Bradshear asks, why use Privy if we are using Klaviyo? Why?
I like this question so much.
I turned it into 10 pieces of content.
No, I went and I asked Ben from Privy. I said, hey, why should someone use Privy if they're already using Klaviyo? What's the difference? My answer for me is the WYSIWYG builder is much better in Privy. Like the Klaviyo pop-up builder is fine, but it is not as advanced as what Privy is doing. So if I want to build a really fancy, cool one, I could do it. But here's what Ben's answer was. Like Privy should be viewed as a suite of conversion tools that sit on top of your website, because you're getting a whole bunch of display formats, design tools, and targeting rules. And he gave 3 examples. He said the bread and butter, which is really a small subset of what Privy does, is exit intent email capture, which you could do that in Klaviyo. It's just not going to look as fancy. Cart savings displays. This one's cool. So you reduce cart abandonment by looking for pre-abandonment signals in the checkout flow, and then you could change the pop-up offer based on the value of the cart.
What are pre-abandonment signals?
I have no idea.
Is it like, their mouse is their mouse is shaking back and forth. They're going, no, I can't buy this.
It starts, yeah. Oh, no. Not going to get me, website. No, so when we say cart abandonment email, it's really a checkout abandonment email. You don't get that email unless you got to step 2 of the checkout.
Yeah, because they have to enter their email.
So what Privy does is it waits until it sees an item is added to cart, and they're in the cart, and they're about to exit, and then it will fire a cart savings pop-up that's like, wait, save X whatever on your order today. And then ideally you collect their email, and then it gives them the coupon or emails the coupon.
But it's not firing that in the Shopify checkout though, right?
No, this is the cart page.
So how do they know your email? Oh, they're trying to get the email.
They're trying to collect the email.
Yeah, all right.
Or if they've already signed up, like let's say you had a welcome offer and they signed up. Okay, now it already has your email.
So it just notes it down.
Yeah.
And is like, I will email them later.
Yeah. Well, it could do it. You could say, hey, if we've already collected this person's email, don't fire subsequent pop-ups.
Well, yeah, that's kind of cool. That makes sense.
And then it could do cross-sell displays. So you could do targeted add to cart displays. So essentially you could do cross-sell offers. So like if you bought a razor, do you want the blade too? Kind of thing. So it's a little bit more than a pop-up builder.
I honestly thought you were talking about a Motorola Razr. And I was like, where is this going?
We all loved our Motorola Razrs.
I never had one.
No?
No, my first cell phone ran Windows Phone. I did not buy a cell phone until 2007. And
Whoa.
I had a Windows Phone with a full QWERTY keyboard and all that stuff. And then my second cell phone was the first iPhone.
Did you have a beeper, Grandpa?
No.
No?
I just didn't like cell phones. Who needs them? Dumb. They're dumb. I waited until the smartphones came.
You just skipped over it?
Yeah.
All right. I did not have any such qualm about cell phones. I had the T9 texting down. Oh, here we go. Winston Lovas asks, is there a step-by-step process used to test product pages to optimize for conversions? Do you test a certain period of time or impressions before making a decision? Right now I'm using heat maps on Hotjar, but was wondering if you had any other best practices and suggestions. Okay, so the two tools I use here are Hotjar for heat mapping, but also the polls in Hotjar is really my favorite thing. So I'll run it on just the product page and say, if you didn't, on exit, you fire up a question that says, if you didn't make a purchase today, why not? And that is utterly revealing as to people's motivations. Because you hear from people who buy from you. You're not hearing from the people who don't buy from you. This is a great way to do it. And often answering those objections, those common objections that keep coming up. Maybe they're complaining about price. Okay, that means you didn't do a good job of explaining the value, or maybe you should offer financing or both. And there's stuff you probably didn't think of, like, I'm not sure what the dimensions are. Okay, include a size guide.
Yeah.
Include some frame point of reference, like put it next to a quarter, whatever it is. I don't know. But we'll also use Hotjar to heat map the page. Ideally, you want 2,000 views in it, not so much time, but just total quantity of sessions. And if it's a big site, you'll get that in a day. In other sites, that might take a couple weeks.
But I think he's asking for, after you make a change, what is the correct amount of time to decide whether that change was good or not.
Well, that sounds more like a split testing question.
That is a split testing question,
in which case,
I think.
Use Google Optimize. It's free. It's awesome, but it gives you a confidence interval. So it's not based on timers. It's based on sessions, not time, but it will make the call for you and go, hey, since it's got the confidence interval, you can look at it and go, all right, I've got faith that this is true.
Because if you make all right, I made a change on my product page. If the question is, I made a change on my product page, how long should I wait to see whether that change was good or not? You're never going to know, really, because the inputs are different and constantly changing. Do you have a sale? Were your Facebook ads that week really good?
What time of year is it?
What time of year is it?
Did Trump say something crazy on Twitter?
Yeah.
That affects a stunning number of stores.
It does, because it affects the markets. And I mean, we had an old client that we could see their weekly revenue numbers. They sold very expensive items, but we could see their weekly revenue numbers change depending on how the market was doing.
That was
if the
fabulous.
If the market was crap, I was like, oh, she's going to have crap numbers this week. And it was always true. So you can't just Google Optimize and split testing is really the real true way to see if changes like that work, because your inputs are fluctuating and changing so much. It's just going to get lost in the noise. And you're probably making changes on other spots too, and that's affecting the whole flow.
It's definitely a squishy, subjective art,
not
a science.
It's pretty much just like, well, that makes me feel, and then you do it, and then your conversions are down for 3 days, the 3 days following, and you're like, oh no, that must have broke it. No.
And really, it's just recency bias.
Yeah, it didn't.
We fall victim to this all the time. Like, a thing entirely unrelated to us breaks the site, and it's, well, whatever the last change you did, conversions dropped. It's like, well, no, it's a holiday weekend.
Yeah,
but
it's Labor
recency
Day.
bias
No one's shopping. Everyone's out.
Always gets whatever the last change we made gets blamed. So I would try and be aware of that cognitive bias. I hope that answered the question, or at least gave you some starting point there. JJ Marcus asks, how do you suggest you make your business stand apart from others in a saturated market?
Content?
Yes.
Funny, good content?
I think
interesting content?
I think start with sharing your story.
Yeah,
Get out from behind the scenes. Give them that behind the scenes content. Share your story. Be your own brand evangelist, number one. You could also try going the route of educational content, like hire somebody to create the ultimate guide to buying X, and it's like 3,000 words and has video and photos, and all right, now you've got like a real educational content piece. So I think the answer is either education, your story, or both.
How did you give that answer without mentioning your favorite store?
Chubbies?
Yes. Because all they do is sell shorts.
I was thinking about Chubbies.
They just sell shorts. That's all they do. You could buy those Chubby shorts at 20 other stores that look exactly like that. But why does Chubbies make so much money?
Because the storytelling behind it is phenomenal.
Exactly.
Well, there was that great, I forgot the name of that study, but the journalist who bought, he bought.
Oh, that eBay thing. That
like
was
200
great.
items on eBay for $1 each. And they were just nonsense items like a motel key, rubber duck. Then he hired got volunteers, I don't know, a copywriter to write a story product description for each individual item, then resold them all at, I think it was like an 8x profit. Oh, that's crazy. And the only thing that changed was the items had stories attached to them now. So I think we know empirically the answer is your story. Mary Geraldine asks, how do you choose which apps make the cut and which don't? There's so many choices, and too many start to interfere with each other and slow down the website.
Ask yourself if you need it. Don't install an app if it sounds cool. That's not a good valid reason where you're like, that sounds cool.
Number one, just don't start with installing it.
Yeah,
avoid shiny toy syndrome.
Yeah, just being like, oh, I have this painter problem with my store that's really holding me back. I wonder if there's an app that fixes that. That should be the starting point. Don't just go looking for apps. That's my thoughts.
Well, yeah.
And a couple weeks ago, we talked about it. We were like, what are the 4 apps you need to have? And then
that was a good thought exercise.
And then the rest you don't really need.
The only thing that was annoying about that thought exercise is the number of people who replied to the tweet version of it.
Ugh.
And were like, I can't believe you didn't include thing that's bespoke to my business because I'm terribly myopic.
Yeah.
And it's like, like Metafields. How many people are actually using Metafields in their Shopify store? A minority. But there were at least 2 people who were shocked that I did not include Metafields as like that was one of the 5 required apps. Hardly.
Yeah.
Well, I think, number one is, fight the urge. Don't install apps if you could avoid it unless they solve a pain or problem. Like the first one was, hey, how do you deal with returns and exchanges? All right, if returns and exchanges are eating up a bunch of your time or a customer support issue, then a returns manager is going to save you time, provide a better experience. So find one and install it. So the other solution, and no matter what, there's going to be apps where you're like, that's cool, too cool not to try, I got to try it. Periodically audit your apps, maybe once a quarter. Put it in your calendar. Set a reminder in your phone every 90 days. Go through your apps and go, what am I even using this for? Because oftentimes when we do a project, people will say, hey, can you help audit my apps? And they'll have like 40 apps installed. And I'll just talk it through with them on the phone. And you'd be surprised the number of apps they go, I really don't know what that does. And they don't know.
It's like, why'd you install it?
It's like it was solved some issue at the time. And then we don't even, it's like, is it even running? So I would say review them periodically and ask yourself, what is this doing for my business? And if it's not solving a pain or problem, okay, then it better be increasing revenue. And for that, look at, it should have ideally some reporting metrics in there. But if not, see if, use Google Optimize, split test that widget. It's easy. You can hide widgets with Google Optimize. Or just turn the thing off for a couple weeks and see if anything happened. I think that would be the approach I take to it.
Apps are bad.
We have 4 apps. You should install those, though.
Yeah, no.
Our apps are fine.
Our apps are good.
Yeah, sponsors apps, those are fine, too.
Oh, yeah, everything. Yeah, Bold.
The other apps, though, those are evil.
Listen, if you I'm not making any promises here, but I heard that if you install a Bold app, Jay Myers, the CEO of Bold, who's the nicest man in the world, will come to your house and thank you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're doing that now.
Okay.
It's like, hey, no, if you donate money to Elizabeth Warren, she might just call you and talk to you about stuff.
Yeah.
You install a Bold app, Jay Myers might come to your house.
Okay. I think, let's go on record with that.
Yeah.
Jay is he is nice by Canadian standards.
He's the nicest.
Which is as nice as you can get.
He's one of the nicest dudes I've ever met.
Oh, for sure. Tom Humphreys says, ways to improve sign-up forms by using data. I use MailChimp's built-in pop-up form. Not sure if there's a way to see what % of people actually sign up. If I knew that, I could try different versions of pop-up to optimize it. Follow-up question, top headline ideas for pop-ups apart from would you like 10% off?
I don't know.
Okay.
That sounds like a damn good headline to me.
Yeah.
I would like 10% off.
Like, yeah, dude. No. Like, don't want to save money?
Yeah, people are, and just...
There's a reason you see that pop-up offer a lot.
Don't try to get too cute with it. You're just
clarity
like,
trumps creativity.
Well, it's just offering people a coupon. That's just like cheating. I got to find like a better way to do it. It's not cheating. It works. Just do the thing that works. Why make it this hard?
Not every brand wants to get into discounting.
They should.
So it's because it's an easy thing to offer too. Like otherwise, I have to offer something educational, and again, like pulling teeth to get people to do copywriting. So all right, I'm not familiar with MailChimp, but I refuse to believe that they can't give you opt-in rate percentages.
Yeah,
like just email their support and ask, and if they say no, then stop using MailChimp because that is so basic. You need stats to be able to know if this thing is working or not.
Yeah, if they tell you that you're just like trapped in 2007 looking for analytics, like don't listen to them anymore.
No, I would not. Run screaming from that page. So I would look at, like, you need to be able to look at opt-in rate. And that's how, number one, you want to see that opt-in rate. And then ideally use, see if you could figure out a conversion rate on that pop-up as well. And that's where, like, the fancier pop-up builders can do that. They can tell you what the conversion or acceptance rate is. And then you could test different offers that way. I can tell you the most successful opt-ins we do start with a micro commitment. So you say, hey, would you like 10% off today? Yes, no. You don't just do the email address. So if you can get them to say yes, then you ask them, all right, here's the catch. I need your email address. And then they enter their email address. That will have a significantly higher opt-in rate. I'm running that exact setup, that offer on a couple stores right now, and they are consistently doing 10% opt-in rate, which is extraordinary. The other thing to consider is quality of traffic or quality of the opt-ins. So like those spin to win, those will often do a high opt-in rate as well, but the quality of the email is not good.
So those people don't react to the email, is what you're saying?
Often it could be a fake email, so you want to make sure you have double opt-in turned on, or it's just drive-by. There is a cost to getting more people into the email, is they're less engaged and interested. I just wanted to see if I'd get something for free.
Whereas if you give them the 10% off coupon, they're using that dang coupon.
Hopefully.
Well, and the way you do that is give the coupon code an expiration. Because then you could email them multiple times being like, that code's about to expire. You better buy something. And really push them into buying something.
That's the other thing. With a welcome pop-up, you need a welcome series to back it up, where you remind them of the coupon. You're creating that urgency, but then you're also telling your story. And you're introducing them to the brand, the team, the product, why they should buy, that kind of thing. And when I talked to people at Klaviyo Boston, I said, what's your favorite flow? A lot of people were like, welcome series. That's the one that makes the money. All right. Final question. We got a Black Friday question. Kim Otterburn says, any outside-the-box Black Friday promotion ideas? I'm thinking perhaps 15% discount, then we donate 5% to a homeless charity, and they do homeware to keep it appropriate to their brand. Have you seen any other cool initiatives other than just a single discount? Yes. So single discount, tried and true, it works. You aren't sure what to do, just run store-wide X% off Black Friday. You don't have to complicate it if you don't want to. If you want to get fancy, two things I like. Free gift with purchase.
Oh, yeah.
That one always works, so you can use
Shopify scripts.
Shopify scripts and a theme customization to do it. If you're not on Plus, you could use ultimate special offers, that kind of thing to do it. The other one I like, and this would either involve a series of coupon codes or ideally Shopify scripts, is tiered discounts. Spend $50, get 10% off. Spend $100, get 15% off. Spend $200, get 20% off. So now we've got 3 discounts tied to spending, and you really want to dial this thing in. You'd put a little bit of liquid logic in the cart. So it says, congrats, you saved 10% on your order. You're only $40 away from saving 15%.
Yeah.
Whoa! And then you nudge them along through this discount ladder.
Yeah, and you need Shopify scripts to do that, and it's super worth it though, and it pays off. But you need scripts and Plus to do that. But the cart liquid for that is really easy. That can be knocked out quickly.
Yeah, like 15 minutes to get that to
That's
work in
nothing.
the cart. We've already got the code
for
that.
It's super worthwhile to do it. Yeah, the donations, like we donate, whatever, those always smell scammy to me. Like, I don't really think you're doing that.
No.
I think you're just keeping the money. And it doesn't help by the fact that we've worked with we've talked to multiple potential clients that did that made that a big part of their marketing and their outward facing stuff. And to the man, they were all dicks. Like they all were like, well, but I donate to all those charities. It's like, you're a dick. Like they've always been dicks to us, people that push how good they are with that.
I have noticed that, especially doing app support, the people where the primary focus and message is charity are always so rude.
Yeah.
Like that's very bizarre. And I've heard other Shopify partners say this too. And I can't imagine what it is that does that. But I find it consistently surprising and disheartening.
It's like, do you think
we did once for a brand split test the presence of that charity message?
Oh yeah, we did.
It made no difference.
Made no difference.
Nobody cared.
No one cares. They're there to buy a thing. They're not there to be like, oh well, I wasn't going to buy this, but since you're apparently going to give $4 to a homeless shelter, now I'll buy it. You might give $4 to a homeless shelter. I'm not even sure if you're going to.
It depends on the audience, because there was another store. It was a clothing store. They donated to a women's shelter, and when we did customer surveys, that came up as like one of the it was like the number 2 reason people bought. They're like, because it alleviates their guilt about spending the money. So it really depends on. I mean, it's just like selling anything else. What you're donating to is an offer. So is that a compelling offer for that audience at that time? And there's really no way of knowing. I think the issue people get into with cause marketing is they assume it's like icing on the cake. If I just donate 5% of my profit, then hopefully people will spend more money. It's not necessarily the case.
Well, and I think the consumers have gotten burned before. Like they know that there's so like every freaking month the NFL is doing some different thing. That's all it's really doing is just lining various NFL executives' pockets. Like that money's not going to actually help people. So
yeah,
they know that that's happening in other places. So it's probably making people jaded in general.
So I think like with cause marketing, I mean, you got to put your money where your mouth is and really back up.
I mean,
if
you could tell the story, I mean, if it's
part of your story, yeah.
Well, and especially like the women's shelter one. I mean, if there's documentation like of this women's shelter and it's like you make it part of your content marketing, it's like, here is the place, here are the people they help, like they are for real.
And that's what they did. It was part of the welcome series.
Yeah, I am really doing this. Like that's different than just, oh, now the product page has a banner on it saying, trust me, I'm going to give some money to this place if you buy. Bullshit.
You're right. That is the difference. Like a badge on a site doesn't mean anything. The story is what is going to be compelling.
Yeah.
Cool. Are there any Black Friday sales you're looking out for? Any items you need?
No. Well, The Outer Worlds is coming out. Super into that game. That comes out on Friday. It's made by the guy Obsidian, one of my top game developers. They made the original Fallouts, Fallout New Vegas. Love the Fallout series. So very excited for that game. Other than that, I'm just mad that Comcast took Turner Classic Movies off my Comcast tier.
Which really, is that like the sole thing keeping you from cord cutting?
Yes. The sole thing keeping me from cord cutting is Turner Classic Movies. Well, and I guess, I don't know. I like flipping around sometimes, and the sole reason I am on the tier I'm on is because it was the cheapest tier that had Turner Classic Movies. It's also the Hispanic tier, so I have a lot of Spanish channels.
Sure, that's very useful for you.
Yeah, I love it. But so then they moved it, and it's not a higher tier. It's its own separate package of like 12 channels that they're like, well, if you want any of these 12 channels, you got to pay us an extra either $10 to $20 a month. So it's like I kind of feel like I have to call them and then downgrade my tier and then buy the add-on package, so the price ends up being the same. But
then they get you back in the contract, and it's a whole...
Yeah, and obviously I'm reticent to do that, so I'm just like, I've been stewing for like a week without any TCM, which is the worst of both worlds.
And I'm just using over-the-air antenna and streaming, and I got no regrets.
Yeah, I mean, the Criterion started their own streaming service, but like all the Criterion movies are, I'm not sure of this, but I think a lot of the Criterion content is all like extremely good movies. Whereas I just want to turn on some old thing and have it wash over me. And it's like a weird old musical from like 1937. That's not going to be on Criterion, but it's like, I won't want to watch that.
See, when I'm in one of those moods, that's where I fire up Tubi.
Pluto.
Pluto's good too.
Pluto's great.
Pluto and I've watched a lot of MTV Cribs on Pluto. I'm all up on what T-Pain's house looked like 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah, probably more than that.
15.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap it up there. I asked Santa for an air fryer was my thing.
Oh, they're good. Oh, my wife Emily, she makes spicy chicken sandwiches in the air fryer. They are the best thing in the world. I love them.
Our air fryer broke, and the issue with an air fryer, you've got that tiny basket. There's a thing called a convection toaster oven. It's a big air fryer.
Yeah.
It works the same way, but without the limitation. So I asked Santa for a convection toaster oven, really.
Really getting your list in early.
Yes. Well, it's always a hassle every year. It's my mother-in-law is like, all right, what's everybody want for Christmas this year? And then it's like, well, I'm an adult. It's hard to come up with Christmas ideas, Christmas gift ideas for yourself.
I always tell my mom what Randy Moss said. Straight cash, homie.
That's very, I got nothing. Anyway, if you want to submit a topic request or a question we ask every 2 weeks in our Facebook group, just search the unofficial Shopify podcast. Join our Insiders Club on Facebook, and I look for my happy face on a thread. I would be happy to answer your question in our next episode. And if you haven't yet, leave a review. I'm addicted to them. I need reviews to live.
I think you're a good boy.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I needed that affirmation. All right, see you guys.
Bye.